Rachel, we've been talking about Georgia, and it does loom just a few weeks ahead of us. January 5th runoff, 2 Senate runoffs, 2 GOP incumbents. We have Senator David Perdue versus Democrat John Ossoff, and then Senator Kelly Loeffler versus Reverend Raphael Warnock. Rachel, do Democrats expect the Biden coalition in Georgia that's pulled them ahead, that's won them the state, white liberals with black Democrats and a rising Latino population, do they expect it to revive itself come January?
Yeah, they do. And I think the push here is twofold. First, you have the Democratic Party that's looking at this from a bigger, larger point of view. They're saying this is a chance to expand the electorate. They are aware that Democrats were able to mobilize new voters that have not turned out before in Georgia. And those voters helped put Joe Biden over the edge. But they're also aware of the fact that a lot of what Joe Biden wants to do during his administration will really rely on the makeup of the Senate and whether or not Republicans hold majority. He has a long list of action items that he wants to do on day one, some that he might be able to do through executive orders. But when you're talking about things like COVID relief, you're going to need Congress for that. And so if Republicans do hold majority in the Senate, that is going to face some pretty significant challenges for Joe Biden as he takes the oath of office. And, you know, it's interesting talking to his campaign because they signal that he hasn't really had these conversations yet with Mitch McConnell. We know he is the most powerful Senate Republican there on the Hill, and it leaves the question and the challenge for Joe Biden and his team at this point. What does he do to try and make these inroads with Republicans who aren't even acknowledging him as the president-elect?
Evan, one of the things that comes through in your book is how much of a centrist President-elect Biden is. And I wonder how you see his vision of 2021, a deeply divided Washington, as well as his relationship with McConnell. I was speaking to a couple Senate Republicans this week, and they said the best thing that happens here is gridlock, and they welcome gridlock and maybe getting some budget deals done. But beyond that, not much, maybe just executive orders. Based on your reporting, your interviews with President-elect Biden, how do you see it?
You know, there is no president in the world that would want to inherit a state of polarization of the kind that we're dealing with right now. But when I talked to President-elect Biden, then candidate Biden, about exactly this question, about how do you actually begin to unwind this state of paralysis that we're dealing with, I said, do you honestly believe, as you've said before, that there will be a kind of epiphany among Republicans if, in fact, President Trump is gone? And he doubled down on it. He said, look, the honest answer is I do believe there will be an epiphany. But I don't mean it in the way that people sometimes lampoon. I don't think they're all going to wake up and suddenly become Democrats. What I mean is that they will, each of them, once you remove the kind of malevolent influence of this president who scares so many of them, as he puts it, that's his way of framing it, that makes them recalculate their individual interests. And if you take the most important member of that conference, after all, of course, it's Mitch McConnell, those two men really do have a meaningful relationship. Let's not pretend it's going to wipe away all the troubles. But Mitch McConnell, let's remind ourselves, was the only Republican senator to attend the 2015 funeral for Joe Biden's son, Beau. I mean, there was that fateful moment in 2012 when Mitch McConnell picked up the phone and called Joe Biden in the West Wing and said, is there anybody over there who knows how to make a deal? So these two at least have some basis for a vocabulary of beginning a negotiation. That's more than you might have with other Democrats moving into this job, but it's hardly a guarantee of anything beyond that.
Ashley, you've covered Congress. You've also covered the Trump-led Republican Party. How do you see those dynamics in 2021?
It's a great question. I've noticed what Joe Biden said, and I'm a little skeptical that that is what's going to happen, that there will be this sort of epiphany that Evan pressed him on, just because, again, and this is framed with the Congress I covered the 113th, under Mitch McConnell, that basically made the decision on day one when Obama was inaugurated to block every single thing that he wanted to do, the same Congress that prevented him from seating Merrick Garland to the Supreme Court. And so Joe Biden is an institutionalist. He is a relationships man, a sort of, political handshaker, look you in the eye, feel your pain type of politician. He has served in that body for a very long time. That may be meaningful in some way. Evan points out he and Leader McConnell sort of share at least a similar vocabulary and shared experience set. But But in a world in which the decision whether or not to wear a mask is so deeply polarized and partisan, it is hard to imagine the deals flowing on day one.
Rachel, we only have about 30 seconds left, but what are you paying attention to in Delaware tonight, this weekend, and next week? We heard from the president today, but what should we be all watching with President-elect Biden?
I think all eyes are who makes up his cabinet, who makes up his administration. We know that he's going to have a very big emphasis on diversity. He said that he plans to have the most diverse cabinet in American history. And remember, it was black voters that propelled him to victory to get the Democratic nomination. Black voters, once again, that helped him get the White House. And he's looking to give them some key roles in the administration.
We'll be watching that.